get recording. We are speaking with the one and only Tag from the band The Treatment. New album called Waiting for Good Luck comes out April 9th, 2021 on everybody's favorite label, Frontiers. And as we say here in Montreal, bonjour, Tag. How are you?
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Yeah,
I'm good.
early morning interviews are so much fun, right?
Well, it's okay because it's early for you, but for me, I've had a couple of hours to get up, and I only had to get up at midday, so it's all good. I like this time zone change.
Yeah, you like the time zone change, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's funny because I've done interviews with artists in Australia, and it's like, well, you need to get on the phone at 7 a.m. and you're like,
What?
no, I don't need to do that. But here
No,
we
no,
are.
no one needs to do that, man. That time shouldn't exist. I'm telling you, there should be a clock. 12 midday to 12 midnight, and there's nothing outside of that.
Yeah. Now, The Treatment, by the way, is a band that I know and love. I mean, I don't know if you can see them, but I've got these old CDs going back from
You've got a rare collection there, man.
2012.
That is a real rare one.
2012, and well, they all say 2012 on them. So it's been a while. I have followed the band for many years. I think part of it was because you opened for KISS back in 2012, and everybody went, well, who's this Treatment opening up for the world's greatest band? Turns out you're one of the world's greatest bands.
You can't forget the Crüe on that tour as well, because we had a bit of a slot opening up because it was KISS and Crüe. I mean, it was a double headliner.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's
it was
right.
a hell of a build to get that opening slot, and for us it was amazing. It was hard work. We went out there. We had no crew, no nothing. Just had our manager Laurie and the guys in the band. And I remember turning up on the first day, and it must have been probably 80 or 90 trucks, 30 or 40 tour buses, and we just had our one little bus and our little trailer. And I remember Lowell walked in, and he was like, "Well, how many dudes you need for the crew?" He's like, "We have no crew. That's it." And we made the whole tour work, man. We did. I think it was like near on 50 or 60 dates, I think it was. And we did the whole thing start to finish, no crew. Just us, and by the end it was amazing. All the KISS guys, the Mötley Crüe lot, they were just helping us with everything. They really, really took us under their wing on that tour, and so did the audience. Every crowd was so receptive. It was brilliant, and because with our half an hour annoying slot before the band you want to see, and they really gave us a real great chance, and it was a mega tour for us to land.
Let me ask you about that, just real quick, and then we'll get on to the album. But that kind of tour, do you buy on? Is it a favor? Is it that Doc McGee sees you and says, these guys are so incredible, we need to have them on? Because, I mean, there is the business side of it. So how did you get on that? Because that's a slot that everybody wants.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions. And the first one is the buy-on idea is something that the Treatment has never... And I remember there was some rumour going on that we paid £50,000. I don't know if you can see, but these two, this is all I own in my life. I don't have a car, a nice house. This is my life. None of us have got £50,000 to whip out of our pocket to buy on. It's something we've never agreed to, and we've been offered it before, and we've turned it down every time because we believe that no band should ever have to buy on to a show. It's hard enough.
I agree.
Band.
I agree, and fans are going to be surprised at how dirty the business is because
exactly, and let alone the headline artist turning around to the support band, who's the struggling one, and charging them money. So that's something we've never agreed with and we'll never do. And we will never, when we hit it and we're on the big time, we will never ever hear of that. Something we will never do. So the way it happened for us, I think, was Nicky Six. He had his side project 6 a.m. I think it's 6 a.m. And they had a song, I think, called This May Hurt, or one of their albums. So we're guessing he probably found the band through the link of, because our first album was This Might Hurt, and he obviously had the track This May Hurt. I think he found that because he got in touch with us and he said he really liked the band, yada, yada, yada. Later on, a few steps down the line, it turned out we also had Laurie was in partnership with a guy called, what is his name? Larry, off the top of my head. I can't remember. He used to manage KISS and he was friends.
Larry Mazer.
That's the one, Larry Mazer, yeah. And he had the connection through there. And yeah, basically they just invited us on the tour. It was amazing. We were on the way back from a Steel Panther show, and someone was checking on Twitter, and then all of a sudden Nicky Six had posted all of the tour stuff saying, "Oh, the Treatment is supporting," and we hadn't even kind of really agreed it yet. We were just like, "Well, looks like we're going to America then, lads." And then it was quickly find a visa, find some tickets, and we're on our way.
That's kind of funny. And by the way, I
It was.
actually spoke to Larry Mazer this week, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Is he doing well?
He's doing very well. Buck Cherry is planning a tour of Canada, and he had a couple of questions for me. So I actually spoke to
Oh,
Larry this week.
oh, great. That's strange you said about Buck Cherry because we actually the last tour we did right before the whole kind of world went a bit crazy was Buck Cherry tour. We had just finished up with them in the UK, right before it was just before Christmas.
Well, you see, well they are back with a fantastic. By the way, your
They're
album,
award-winning for their new album.
"Waiting for Good Luck," is fantastic, and I've heard their new album, which is coming out in June or July. It's fantastic. So maybe you have to do it again. The treatment Buck Cherry reunion tour or whatever.
That we should do in like part two from pre-Corona to post-Corona. You know,
Yeah,
Get
bookend
some
Coronas. Yeah. So let's get to the treatment "Waiting for Good Luck." Talk to me about putting together this album, because this one there seems to be like an urgency to it. You turn it on, you got Rat Race, and it punches you in the face, and then it just keeps punching you until the last song. I mean, you went full rock on this.
I think so. We had it was a bit of a strange time for us because we had our bass player Rick. He just decided he didn't want to do music anymore, and he's paid his dues. He's been in the band over 10 years, and I just think he decided he wanted to move on. But this was right before the whole kind of coronavirus kicked off, so we were then left in a bit of an awkward situation that we couldn't really look for anyone new. But we had all this time on our hands because none of us could leave the house. So we were like, well, let's make do with what we can do. And then we just started. So, I mean, the whole kind of album formed over this period of not being able to leave. And I think the urgency was just this: we're five guys who we don't know what the hell's happening in the world. And everything we've worked up towards and spent our whole lives dedicated to being in the band and learning our trade and craft was all of a sudden taken away like that. It was like, actually, there's no future. And I don't know, what do? Do you give up, or no, you fight back twice as hard? And I think that the whole kind of anger in that album was just because we were stuck, man. We wanted to get out, wanted to find a new bass player, we wanted to get on with life. And that was definitely captured. And the big difference on this record was we recorded it live. The other albums have not been done on that kind of in that way, and that made a huge difference. And we were only able to do that because we had so much time to sit there and actually craft the songs.
So when you say that it's recorded live, is it you like literally like four guys on the floor and or five guys on the floor? You plug in and you just record what's going on.
You know what? You were correct there with the four guys.
Right.
So
because there was no bass player at the time.
There's no bass player. So we actually had Laurie Mansworth, so Dan's dad, who's also our producer. He has been there since day one, and he knows the band inside out. He's really a sixth member of the band. He's an amazing, amazing man. And when Rick left, we were in a bit of a tight situation. And so he actually played guitar on the record along with me. And my brother Teo hopped on the bass. And because we had this connection and bond, because I mean, he's known me since when I moved down to Cambridge, I was 16. You know what I mean? He's been through every moment with me, and we have this connection together. So we hopped in, and that moment when we stepped into Rockfield to record it, it was just the four of us creating this magic of being locked in a cabin for like 4 months, man. And we were out, we're in the studio. That was this magic that was captured there. And that, I think, is when you hear that rawness in a band, like sometimes you put on your favorite live album or your favorite record, and you're like, why is there that rawness and energy? That is what we captured for the first time, really, in us four people in Rockfield. In that one moment, we captured like 4 days of pure magic. I mean, we tracked the whole album in 4 days. We actually finished about 3.5.
Wow. Well, by the way, that's the way it should be. You go back to the early Sabbath and all that. They're like, it was done in 9 hours. And it's like, yeah, and 50 years later, we still love it. Go figure.
Exactly. So that was that was the magic we captured there. And then the vocals were then done later at Laurie's studio here in Cambridge. So it was quite nice to be able to have the time to sort of spend doing that. But the actual essence of the band was captured in those 3.5 days of and there were no edits. It wasn't like we'll take one bass bit from here. It was just like, man, you play it right, and there's not a choice to play it wrong. because we haven't got
Wow.
the money to
So
let it
so
roll.
no comps, no nothing. It's
No
just
comps. There
straight.
was it the first time ever. It is all the rhythm tracks and the backing of the band is what was recorded that day is exactly what you hear.
So let me
And you'll
ask you.
probably if you pull it apart, you'll hear like snide notes here and there.
So
But we
there
thought
so
that
there are
was
mistakes because listen, when you listen to those
absolutely.
early Kiss albums, those early Sabbath, there's out of tune, there's out of time, there's all kinds of shit going on, and you go, yeah, but that's what makes it great. So
Yeah, but exactly. But when you're on the other side of it and you hear it back, you're like, "Oh my god, it's out of tune there," and you're like, "Can I change it?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 don't touch it." And you're like, "No, no, please, please, please." But we had exactly the same thing, and it was absolutely as is. So you'll hear the realness and the rawness of the band there because it is real. No overdubs,
so that
no nothing.
explains it because I listened to it and more than once. I mean, they sent me a stream and I've heard it 4 or 5 times, and I put it on, and normally you'll listen to 30 seconds and you go, well, all right, I got it. Now let's do the interview. But I listen to the whole thing because it sucks you in, and I guess it sucks you in because it's like a live show. It's just there's there's an energy, and there's a magic to it, which I think has been cleaned out of too many rock albums because now they Pro Tools it
Completely.
to death, they auto tune it to death, and there's no vibe anymore. But this one's got full vibe, so that explains it.
That's 100% what we tried to capture on it, and yeah, it's a real hard one, but it's that moment of like, and with the guitars as well, there's no extra guitars in there. You have literally the guitar on the right and the guitar on the left. There's a few tracks that had a few extra overdubs, but it really is just the instruments you
Wow.
would picture in the band is
And
what you hear coming
you've
through the
got
speakers.
you said Danny's dad playing on it, so it's like dad rock. Oh,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's
Well,
dad rock.
I'd love to say Dad Robbie. He has a whole history of his own. So you go back, he was part of the new wave of British heavy metal in a band called More. So
Oh,
he
oh,
had
oh, oh, oh,
serious
oh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then later on, he then went on to form a band called Air Race.
I know Air Race.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I didn't know that there was all those connections. That's actually
Yeah. So you see his whole like rock history, and that's why like so everything I know, I've learned
ah.
through this, everything that he's learned through the 80s and 90s, and it's just this giant, just amazingness ball of just like energy and yes.
Oh, so it's not like the lorry driver just picked up a guitar and played with his son. It's
No, it certainly isn't.
oh well,
There's plenty of rock history there.
yeah.
But that Dan got into drums, and Laurie kind of when Dan said he wanted to put a band together, he went to his dad, and that's how the two of them started the treatment.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, so the album is called, of course, "Waiting for Good Luck," and I say this respectfully, but I sort of get the sense that the band is waiting for good luck in the sense of how do we get to that next level and we become an arena act. What are some of the frustrations you've had? You've been the opening slot for Motley, you've been the opening slot for Kiss, but how do we get to that next level where somebody in America turns on the radio and they go, "Oh yes, that Treatment band, I love everything they've done."
I see. I think we've had a few lineup changes, which
Yes,
has been a mega impact on the band.
right.
And I think a lot of people they do slate us, and it's kind of like, look, this isn't rock and roll in the 1980s anymore. This is rock and roll in 2020. There's not a great deal of money. You really, if you want to do it, you got to do it because you love it, and you're going to give up everything else in your life because we're not making money. We are really, everything that comes into the band goes back into the band to staying out on the road, buying an occasional Les Paul, doing whatever we can. And so it isn't for the faint-hearted, and it isn't for everyone. And that's the problem, that I think we've had some people along the way who haven't been able to hack that. And so it shakes the band a little bit every time someone leaves. And well, it does. I wouldn't say it really shakes us, but it adds. It
It's
takes
improved
time.
the band. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. It's improved the band.
I think where we're at now, we'd have never been able to step to the next level with the characters we had. The who is in the band now this is the treatment as it should be.
As it should be.
And I think now, and with this new record, we've recorded it the way it should have always been recorded. But we're all learning as well as we go along here. So
Well,
that I think is a huge part of it. And I think as well, we've finally found the sound like what is the treatment. It's taken a few sort of ways here and there, but that's why I think we haven't stepped up to the arena size yet.
Right. Well, let me just quickly ask you about the vocal changes. Matt leaves, Mitchell leaves. Bands, are identified a lot by the vocalist. You think of Aerosmith, you think of Steven Tyler. You think of Iron Maiden, you think of Bruce Dickinson, or some people think of Paul, but most people think of Bruce. How has that impacted the band? Because getting a new voice does change the sound of the band. And so are you, happy with Tom? Is he the right vocalist where the other one's not? Or is it just, hey, it's just us developing to getting to where we are today?
Well, anyone who says he sounds like Bon, I mean, when I hear that, I just go, that's cool, because that is what I want. I think you can tell the change because you can hear I think you can hear the change in Generation Me to maybe what was before Running with the Dogs, or now, Power Crazy, or even what's going to be Waiting for Good Luck.
Or even one of these great EPs that we have here.
Yeah, man. You can tell the change through each vocalist. And I think with Tom, we've found that perfect sound. I think he's much closer to the original sound of This Might Hurt, of that kind of raspy vocals. Mitch had brought a different element to the band, and I think it was like, don't get me wrong, I think some of the songs on Generation Me are some of our best songs. I think Let It Begin is probably, for me, one of the greatest riffs we've got, but it definitely brought a slight change in the way the album sounded, and I think we're going much closer to our roots on this last album. So I'm really excited to see what the fans are going to think, and to see what people think about it, as I think we've finally got to that point that the band has gelled and we've found our sound.
Well, the fans are going to love this album, and if you're not a fan of the band and you just like good rock music, go check it out. I mean, it's terrific. In terms of sort of bringing it all together, do you think perhaps that maybe a live record is something that you might want to consider and get Tom doing, Shake Mountain and Departed and all that stuff, and saying, all right, let's go?
It's been absolutely on the cards, and you know what's a real shame is because
you can't play live.
No, well, that's the other side problem. It was actually on the cards because we had I mean, pretty much the whole summer was booked out for us. We were doing loads of shows, and we were going to do a cruise in Sweden, I think, and the plan was to do a live show. So it's 100%. It's on the cards, but yeah, I mean, we got to dust off our chops, man, because we haven't played as a band in a long time now, and we've got a new guy to, kind of break into the ranks. So, but that's definitely something on the cards, and it's something we wanted to do for a long time, and I think now, since doing Rockfield, we've proved that it can be done. So, yeah.
So, and by the way, if the new guy doesn't work out, just bring in Dad. You're good. You're good with Dad. Yeah. And you can put on the marquee treatment featuring Dad from Air Race. It's perfect.
Exactly. Got to have some experience in the camp,
Play some new wave of British heavy metal for them. So the live shows. The UK right now is thinking by June 21st will be open. Right? I mean, that's what was announced recently. Are you hopeful that that's going to happen? And do you see yourself playing this year, or is 2021 just another wipeout and you just go, ugh, fuck?
It's, we've had, honestly, in the last, I mean, how long ago did he announce it? 2 days ago? And we've had so many requests come in from promoters and venues, which has been amazing. I think we've got I think June 21st is being slightly skeptical, because I think every time we've had these kind of dates before, it has taken longer than planned.
Well, listen,
I think things...
Sorry to cut you off, but March of 2020, they said we're taking a 2-week pause to flatten the curve. So
exactly.
we're celebrating 1 year of the 2 weeks. So,
well, I remember, plan your Christmas, and no, we'll do Christmas at Easter. So it's okay, all right. But I think towards the end of the year, things will start kind of coming back to normality. I don't know with shows how long it'll take, and I think we've still got a public that's a bit scared. So I think everyone's going to need to be vaccinated till anyone feels comfortable being back in an arena, or even a hot, sweaty club, because that's the problem. We love rock and roll, and we love it when it's just packed and it's packed with people, but that's kind of not an option at the moment. So I think until the public feels cool and the vaccinations are being completely rolled out, then we'll see normality again. And then when that happens, I think the music scene will take off I think so many people have been deprived of live music, and I think we've all realised in this time that live music is actually so important. Socialising with people
Yep.
and going to gigs, and just that is such a huge part of life that I think sometimes we maybe overlook.
Well, just
And that
also for the economy. I mean, every time you go to a gig, you usually stop at a restaurant before, you pay for parking. There's a whole economy that's worth billions of dollars worldwide.
absolutely,
And it's been wiped off the books. Let me ask you about the quickly about UK clubs. In Canada, they're talking about 8 out of 10 clubs are going to close, 80%. You try to route a tour when 80% of the clubs have closed. Good luck. Is it that dire in the UK as we speak here, beginning of March?
so I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't watched the news in a long time. I find it really, really negative. So to stay out of that space, I turn the TV off. But from what I've heard, it's quite bad. We've had a lot of people, saying they've been in trouble. But it's quite amazing. A lot of crowdfunders have been started here as well. So I think a lot of the venues will be saved. I think a lot are going to struggle. And it depends how long it takes for the moment they open, whether it goes, the social distance gigs, or whether it goes straight back into full-time concerts. So I don't know. They haven't really laid out that clearly what the plans are for later on in that part. But I think, you have to kind of look on the positive that people are always going to want to go and see gigs, right? So if you've got that market there, you're going to need to have venues. So whether we lose some old ones and some new ones open, I don't know. I mean, for me, I hope that the individual venue comes back a bit more, because the large corporately owned venues are very similar. Like everywhere you go is exactly the same, and you're not really treated that well. When you go to the small individually owned venues, they're the ones that have got all the character. You may only be able to fit 100 people in it, but there's so much character in those small places, and that's what I think maybe we're missing a little bit in our music scene. That might be regenerated by this whole new birth of
I'm
people
hoping.
wanting to see live music. So I think, yeah, there are some negatives, but I think there's also some great positives there. And like you say, with where you are, if 8 and 10 are lost, but there's still going to be the market of people wanting to see gigs. So you're going to have to, there will be people out there who will be buying up the old venues, and it may just be a change of hands. And it does suck for some amazing promoters who have been there and supported bands. But let's hope, that they get the crowd funds that they need, and that new venues open, and maybe it just gives a whole new lease of life.
Listen, I'm looking for what they call a renouveau, right? A renewal of everything. Because the scene did get a little bit.
This scene has become a bit stale, and I think this whole thing has completely shaken it up. And it's really kind of forced the bands that really want to make music because they want to make music, not for the money, but because all they do is make music. That has been all that's come out in this time. Do you know what I mean? So it really is kind of changing for the artists as well. Like they're putting out, it's really the people who actually love music are there at the forefront, leading it, and I think that's great, because that's how it should be. It's not about the money or anything. It's about the music.
I agree. Let me just get back to the music. Waiting for Good Luck. You told me just before that you hadn't heard it in about a month. Is this an album that was done in 2019 and 2020 and was supposed to come out and then you held it? Or sort of what's the story in terms of the timeline of when this was recorded and when was it supposed to originally come out?
So the timeline for it was, I'm trying to think. So we went into the lockdown in March 2020, which is around a similar time when Rick left. And we struck a bit of luck, because one of our friends actually owned a nightclub and he gave us the keys. So we were actually able to use, and it was just down the road to us, so we were able to use a fully sound isolated building to play as loud as we wanted for as many hours a day. So it was great. So we actually had pretty much a studio to rehearse in it was about 4 months, I think, because we did every day. Honestly, it was so hot and so sweaty, but it was just sitting in that room, playing and rehearsing and getting the songs together there. So the moment we got out of lockdown, which I think, if I remember, was it June or was it May here? I don't know. I'm asking you as if you know.
It was probably May, because
I think it was May, June.
In Quebec, in May, it's like, oh, summer's coming. It'll be fine. I remember the heat will kill COVID. Yeah, sure, the heat will kill COVID.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank God it killed COVID for a good month, which is great. So we actually managed to get, the moment lockdown lifted, Rockfield had a few days available, and they only had 4 days. And I remember Lowell came to us and he was just like, look, boys, this is our moment. Let's go. And that was it. We honestly, within like a couple of days, we've just packed up the van, went straight to Rockfield, got that done. And so once that was then tracked there, then the work on the vocals and the solos came after that, which was great because we hadn't actually had Tom around because Tom doesn't live with us. So obviously before that, there'd been no chance to do any of the vocals. So once the album was tracked, then the vocals were then done at Laurie's studio because he owns his own production studio here in Cambridge, which is amazing. So all of that was done here. Once that was done, then it was sent off to Kevin Shirley, who mixed it. And I think we got most of it back. I think it was around October and November. And I think the plan was to probably get the album out slightly earlier than what the release date was. But by that time, we knew that the lockdowns were going to be put back in for the next year. So we settled on April. And to be fair, it worked out really well. You know, having the single come out like straight after Christmas, boom. Then we've got the next one. We've got Wrong Way, which is another single coming out on the 4th of March. So that's coming out. And it's just leading us really nicely into kind of good space. And then by April I think our album comes out 3 or 4 days before anyone can go into a garden and have a beer now. So we're going to capture those last few people on the day, and then we can go out and celebrate after the album comes out. So the timeline has worked out almost perfectly, really. Yeah. But it's been a long, long wait for us. And it's kind of one of those things when you get the masters back, you get them on the hard drive and then you lock them away because that is gold dust. You don't want that going out. And so you hear it, and then you actually, after that, you don't listen to your own stuff until the release of the album.
Until you have to rehearse it. But what I take away from that the most is that the lead singer gets his own place and the band has to live all together. That's perfect. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely. I'm glad you understand. The LSD is real.
Right, that's right. The lead singer disease is real. It's like, well, his ego. No, that's kind of funny.
Causes more problems in the room than not being in the room. So the best thing is stay out.
Stay out of the room.
Come in when you need it.
Let me just end on this. So you go through Mitch, you go through Matt. How does Tom come into the picture? Is it rehearsal? Is it like, hey, mate, we know somebody who's real good? Sorry for the accent, But how did you get Tom? Because he's got a great voice. I mean, this album, again, Waiting for Good Luck, is just perfect from start to finish. The voice, the bass, the drums, the dad, everything just is perfect.
Well, I mean, thanks again for that, man. We really, that means so much because it's been a lot of hard work to get to that point, and to hear that back is it's awesome, man. It really is. It makes every moment of that worth it. But in terms of going back to Tom, like it's Dan has this. So Dan's our drummer, Danny. And he has this sick way of finding talent. I don't know how. Every singer he's always found on YouTube or through someone's Facebook or MySpace or something. And
MySpace, man's old school. Look at that.
MySpace was back in the early days. You know what I mean? I mean, now we're TikTok.
Does he use his AOL account to reach out to them? Is that what he's doing?
We don't even have email, man. What are you on about? What is email?
He sends them a letter with a.
Yeah, exactly.
He writes it out with a feathered pen. Oh my god. But where do you get Tom from?
And Tom I think Dan found him on a YouTube video. Actually, he was in another band, and we just messaged him. It turns out he was actually a fan of the treatment. He'd heard a lot of the material, and I think he was kind of almost a bit blown away when we first messaged him and didn't kind of really realize it was real. And then we got him down, and Tom lived with us for a while. But I think he's quite a weird character. He kind of needs a lot more of his own space. Like we gel as a band, and everyone lives here. And that kind of works because, with the music side of things, he doesn't need to be here all the time. And, when we get ready for a tour, then he'll come down and he'll stay for a few weeks and we'll rehearse everything up. It's also easy, he's from Guildford and he's got his whole family there. So I think that kind of worked out better for him. And, I mean, to be honest, if he'd been locked in with us, he'd have driven us around the bend. So it's probably all for the better.
Yeah, it's all right. When you go on tour, he'll get his own bus and his own dressing room. It'll be perfect.
No. That's something we've never agreed to. And there will never be that moment that he walks out on stage after us. The whole band comes out at once, and we leave in one bus and we come in one bus.
Perfect. Well, Waiting for Good Luck, folks. April 9th from Frontiers.
Interview us in another 20 years, and then I'll tell you whether we're still on the same wavelength.
Yeah, we'll be like, so where did you pick up the 7th singer? Where?
Yeah. The 20th singer, man.
Well, we had a concept, one album, one singer. We wanted to just, yeah.
It didn't work out so well. We got 2 singers per album.
Yeah, we're Linkin Park now, for crying
Yeah,
out loud.
exactly.
Oh, my Lord. But you know what? Listen, as you can see, I have the albums, and those are the ones that I had just here in the same room. The other ones are downstairs, but great band. Listen, I know when Mitchell came in, or Mitch, there was a big hullabaloo, and it's like, oh, this guy, and he was great. But Tom, on this album, Waiting for Good Luck, I think has surpassed it. I'm going to declare this your best album. That's what I'm doing. I'm declaring this your best album.
No, awesome. Let's hear the judge's tap. Boom.
Judge tap, yeah. Get the gavel out. Waiting for Good Luck is it. And folks, if you haven't checked out the band, you're missing out. You must check out this band. You must pick up this album. And you must see them live, hopefully, in North America at some point.
You must, and yeah, we will be coming back, don't worry.
Oh, good. Well, Tag, that's it. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Massive pleasure. Thank you, dude.
Absolutely. And anytime you want to do something, let's hook it up, because I'm more than happy to support. I have supported you financially by paying for these CDs, and I'm going to keep supporting.
Right. Can't ask for more than that. Mega appreciate it, and thank you to everyone listening.
Thank you, sir. Cheers. As we say in Montreal, bonsoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. All right.